attending right now. And then if anyone joins us at a later point, obviously there'll be an opportunity to ask questions after each of us presents. So why don't we just get started?
All right, I am recording. I will stop the slideshow.
Great.
Ready when you are.
All right, great. Welcome everyone to the Academy of Whole Learning Information and Question and Answer webinar. For those of you who have not met me, my name is Paul Glodovins, and I am the Director of Marketing and Admissions at AOWL. We appreciate all those who are joining us today, and we hope that this will be beneficial and informative to everyone. This is our first webinar, so we're hoping everything goes off without a hitch, but if there are any technical difficulties, we just ask you to bear with us as we work through this. So our agenda today will consist of, first of all, I would like to share a little bit about our school. Some of the attendees of this webinar have not been to our facility, may not know a whole lot about us. So I just want to give some brief highlight of our school, our program. Then I'm going to pass it on to Greg Saunders, who's our Director of Exceptional Learning, also known as our principal, to speak briefly about some topics such as maybe the classroom environment, our typical day, some maybe curriculum things, and maybe overview some of the efforts we've been going through the COVID incident. And then after Greg, we'll have Lisa Janish, who is our Director of Behavior Education, speak a little bit about the role of our behavior therapists in the classroom. And then finally, we have the luxury of having two current parents on the call, Melissa and Michelle, who will hopefully be able to share a little bit of their experience with you all about what they like, maybe some things that have been helpful for their kids in attending Academy of Whole Learning. And then after that, we're going to open it up to questions. So during each of these brief presentations, I invite you at the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A button that you can press to submit questions. So if a question comes up that you think about, we're going to kind of hold those questions, but at least you can add them in as these presentations are going on. And then we'll address each of the questions at the end and hopefully have enough time to get through them all. Just an FYI, everyone that is in attendance here is muted and the video is turned off. So we cannot see you, you cannot see others, and we can't hear you and no one else can hear you. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So with that, we'll get things started. For those of you who don't know about us, like I said, I would like to share a little bit more about our school. Academy of Whole Learning is a private, nonprofit K-12 school in Minnetonka for students with autism and individual learning needs. This upcoming year, we are also starting an adult learning program, kind of a transition program, so that will be new for us. We do promote ourselves as a school for autism primarily, but I would say about 60% of our kids have a primary diagnosis of ASD. But beyond that, we have students with primary diagnoses of ADHD, ADD, sensory processing delays, anxiety, cognitive delays, and many, many more. So no child is exactly alike, and I think that's why our individualized approach to education is so successful. We were started back in 2003, so we've been around as a school for about 17 years. We are an accredited school, and we currently have 71 students. As I said, what really differentiates us is our small class sizes and kind of that individualized approach that we take with each child. Each classroom has between 7 and 9 kids, and there is a special education teacher as well as a registered behavior therapist within the classroom. So the student to teacher ratios are typically 4 students to 1 adult. We don't have specific grade level classrooms, but we create classrooms of similar academic and social ability students. So for instance, you might have a classroom of 3rd through 5th graders in one classroom. And with these small class sizes, and we have kind of a rotation structure that Greg can speak a little bit about, we are truly able to individualize for each child and their needs. Also, we really, given those small class sizes, the overall small population of our school, we get to know each child very, very well. And we're able to accommodate each child to help them be successful. I can honestly say that, given our small class sizes, that no child within our environment will fall through the cracks. At Academy of Whole Learning, we definitely follow a holistic approach. So we're not only teaching academics, but we're also outwardly teaching regulation skills, social skills, executive functioning, and life skills. So that's kind of a brief introduction. And I think what I'll do now is just pass it over to Greg. Again, Greg, if you can share maybe a little bit more about, things such as, the classroom environment, maybe general schedules, maybe some of the curriculum we use or how we go about our, educating. And then maybe if you want, I'm sure there are questions from our audience regarding COVID and how we're, addressing that.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're attending here and interested in our school, which is an exceptional school. Yes, my name is Greg Saunders. My title is Director of Exceptional Learning. I operate just like a principal would be in a traditional school. Lisa and I work together, supporting the staff and also supporting the students and the families too. We care about the success of all stakeholders. We want to make sure that the teachers get as much support as they have, and the parents as well. So my role really is to help the teachers, to help them and make sure that they have all the resources that they need to be successful teaching the students in their classroom. So like a typical day, we are in a K-12 building. And so we have a lower school, we have a middle school, and we have a high school. So there's lots of different schedules that make up our school, but it just works so well just because everyone works together efficiently. So in a lower school setting, if you would step into a lower school classroom, I don't know if you were able to see some of the pictures there ahead of time, as it showed kind of what you would see if you were to walk down the halls when we were actually having school in session. The way instruction is done is it has to be assessed first. That we do lots of assessment. We don't do it as often as some traditional schools, but when we do it heavily. And the reason why we do that is we want to know right where the kids are at and find out what gaps are being missed for language arts and math. And then we break the students down into groups. Those instructional groups they meet with the teacher every day. And in the classroom, there's this year, next year will be a little different, as will most things, but in a traditional way, what we would do, we would have the students sit down with the teacher in a rotation. And the teacher would target certain skills and making sure that students know the standards that are being taught for language arts and math. Whole group instruction, I would say, for science and social studies, that they would be with their whole peers within the classroom. But really for the language arts and math, they would rotate within the classroom. So 15 minutes, I would say, they would be with the teacher, and the teacher would be working one-on-one with those students, asking questions and making sure students are progressing in a way that is suitable for themselves and for the teacher. Also, in the next rotation, they would meet with the behavior therapist within the classroom. And that behavior therapist would not only be instructing on math or language arts, but in doing so, they would make it more socially interactive. So they would be working on social skills and life skills in those situations when they're in with that behavior therapist for that rotation. And then they would have an independent rotation where they would be working on adaptive online materials, either through an app or on their Chromebook in that setting. So that's the way it would be like in a lower school and a middle school. Our high school, it's just like a school, a traditional school in a sense in which they would rotate, but unlike a traditional school, our class sizes are much smaller. That individualized attention we're able to give that to each student. Teachers are able to modify lessons and give that one-on-one help when needed. So with that, we're able to meet all the standards that the students need in order to achieve graduation. Like Paul said, we are accredited with many different organizations. We have students who are at many different levels. Some students, I think, we had several students take the ACT this year, and I think our average score is 30 or 32, so which is really great. We have great support system for them in that area, and we have some students who need extra support, and we place students in classrooms based on their academic ability and also their social emotional area. And we just try and make sure that we put them in an area that they're going to be achieve the most success. So academically speaking, I would say within the classroom, it has been such a pleasure to see how our teachers work so hard to make sure that the students have a great amount of success that we've seen, and we're able to track that progress through our assessments and see the growth of the students. So yeah, for our classes and the academics with the small settings that we have and the way that it's set up with the structure, we've seen just an incredible amount of success in our students, and it's been fun to be a part of that for sure. So glad that you're here again. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate everything you're able to share. Just once again, if our participants have any questions that come to mind as we're presenting these things, there's that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. By all means, you can type it in. We're not going to address it on the spot, but at the end, we will try to address all questions that come in. So feel free to use that as this presentation is going on. All right, now we'll have Lisa Janish, who again is our Director of Behavior Education, speak a little bit about something that makes us unique. We have behavior therapists within our classrooms, and she'll talk about their role, as well as maybe some other skills that we are teaching beyond just academics.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I oversee the behavior department. I know when people say behavior, they usually a lot of people think about bad things, like maybe challenging behavior, disruptive behavior, but I'm here to tell you that everything we do is a behavior. So even brushing your teeth is a behavior. So at school, we use some of the principles of applied behavioral analysis in a more naturalistic way. And some things maybe that our behavior team may help, might be helping students set up a morning routine or at the end of a day routine. They might be helping a student ask for help in an appropriate way. Or potentially, interacting in a group discussion. So the behavior therapist is there to work on those social, emotional, and social skills within the classroom. At our school, we believe in regulation before education. So in the lower school, like Paul said, we have lower school and middle school, we have a behavior therapist in each of the classrooms. In the high school, we have one behavior therapist that rotates between the 4 classes. And each student has individual social, emotional, or executive functioning goals. And we determine those goals by assessments, direct observations, and also getting the parents' input. So we are collaborating with parents so that we come up with social, emotional goals that we're working on. In the lower school and middle school, social skills are worked on throughout the whole day. So with that, behavior therapist travels with the class in the lower or in the middle school. They go to different classes in the afternoon, and a behavior therapist goes as well. So they're able to really focus throughout the whole day on social skills. In the high school, we have pull-out social skills groups in which a small group of kids who are working on some of the same things can get together in a group and work on those skills together in a small group. And then we also take advantage of some of those unstructured times during the day, so like lunch, so that we're there to help support and work on some of those social skills in some of those unstructured manner. Another way that we have a variety of different clubs. So that's an awesome opportunity for our kids to foster some friendships and really work on those social skills after school. And it kind of focuses around some of their interests, which could be taekwondo or dance or STEM. And so it's a club. And so then it's a great opportunity that they get to see a bunch of kids from the school all with the same interest. And so good way to develop some friendships. And then we have a really unique kind of situation that we have is we have a clinic that is part of our organization. And so let's say we have someone who wants to come to our school but isn't quite ready. And so our kiddos can go into the clinic and work on some of those skills and then generalize them and work their way into the classrooms. And there too, even kiddos that are at our school and are struggling with something and just really need some more intensive help, we have the clinic that can offer some extra help, and therefore they could go work in the clinic for an hour or two or up to, you know, as much hours as they need, and then generalize their skills within the school. So that's kind of a unique situation that we have that I don't know of a lot of people that have that. And the clinic also provides outpatient psychotherapy, intensive therapeutic groups, which are social skills groups and parent support groups and sibling support groups, and then also work on that kind of more intensive interventions for kiddos that need it. So that's a little bit about our behavior department.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa, for sharing. I do see a couple of questions have come in, so thank you, participants, for those. And again, we are going to address those once everyone has been able to present, so keep those questions coming. Next, we have the great pleasure of being able to hear directly from two parents, two current parents that have their child at Academy of Whole Learning and kind of their experiences. So I think we'll start out, not to make Michelle wait, but we'll start out with Melissa here first. And Melissa has a current 8th grader at Academy of Whole Learning. She also has a son who graduated from Academy of Whole Learning a few years back. So I'm sure she can give great perspective. Melissa, can you briefly share with us some of your overall experiences of having, you know, now 2 kids attend Academy of Whole Learning?
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, thank you for everyone for attending today. I know it can be super scary as a parent to make these school decisions, and this is my 6th year at Academy of Whole Learning. So thinking back to those years when I was trying to figure out what to do with my kids and where to put them, I know it's really tough. So I think the best thing you can do is things like this and really explore all your options. So I'm glad you're here. So I am a single parent of 4 kids, and 3 of them have autism, and 2 of them, like Paul said, have attended Academy of Whole Learning. One graduated and one's a current student there. So we had tried public school, private school, and I even homeschooled. And my sons were failing, and we were having a lot of bullying and a lot of things that, you know, some of these students with special needs encounter in school. And so it was really tough. We really needed a school that was more individualized for my son. Before he went into high school, we started Academy for him in 9th grade. And we had done an IEP with our school district, and they said, yeah, you know, he's really struggling academically, but I think he really needs to focus on life skills and social skills. Well, I asked them what they offered for that, and they said they only had one life skills class, one semester, all 4 years of high school. And if that's what they were suggesting he needed most, it just wasn't enough. So when we came and toured Academy of Whole Learning, that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me, was just the daily social skills, you know, life skills emphasis, and then that individualized, you know, just one education for him plan so that he was taught right to his level, and both kids. worse. So when my son came into the school, he was at a 3rd grade level for reading, and I think even a little bit lower than that for math, and this was as a 9th grader. When he graduated at grade level for reading. And he was, I think, like middle school for math. So it was amazing. Like, I just can't believe they were able to get him all the way and make all of those strides in just a few short years. So it was amazing. And he was just really taught to his level. And I think that and being really comfortable in the classrooms, you know, that environment that just really made him able to learn made such a difference. And so now he, and even more important to me than the academics was him making friends. You know, he hadn't had friends before, and hadn't been invited to birthday parties, and hadn't been invited to, you know, play dates or hangouts, I guess they call it in high school. And so, you know, that was a much bigger thing to me, that all of a sudden he had friends and he had the social ability to make friends and maintain friendships, which was new for him. So now he is in a transition program in our school district, but he's attending Hennepin Technical College, and he's actually taking the AccuPlacer soon, but he's in a small engine repair class there. He has a job at Quick Trip gas station that he's had for 2 years, and he was able to get that and do an interview, and I really attribute all those skills to the school that I just don't think he would have had before. You know, 85% of kids with autism are unemployed. And so it's amazing that he's able to get a job and keep a job. Now, his twin brother was not able to go to the academy for different reasons. And he also has autism, and he has had a horrible time with making friends, social skills. I really worry about him, even as a high functioning Asperger person, having friends, getting jobs, interviews, this, you know, all of that, because he didn't have the benefit of the academy like his brother did. And so, you know, that really has given him a big head up. And it's been a huge sacrifice to send my kids there. And I know that's a big issue for so many parents that really want to come to the school. And I can say that, you know, the first conference I ever went to years ago, I left there thinking, they finally told me what my kid can do instead of just what he can't do and what he can't do. And, you know, all of those just negative approach. And all of a sudden there was all these things I learned that my son and my kids could do. So that made it so worth every penny for me of sending them there. And then a couple of the other things that have really made it worth it to send my kids there has been the support groups. There's parent support groups every month that we've taken advantage of, in the therapy that Lisa mentioned. I've taken advantage of that as a parent at the school, and just been able to talk to the therapist about things going on in our home and challenges, and that's been so helpful. And then just having other parents at the school that understand. You know, every parent in our school gets it. They all have been where you are. They all understand. We all do. So it's been such a kinship with the other parents. And, you know, I feel like we all just really understand each other. My kids have all participated in Special Olympics through the school, which has been super fun. They were state champs in basketball when my boys were playing. They've done flag football through Special Olympics. So that has been really fun and really motivating for my kids to be there. And they have some other things they do too, poly hockey. And then Lisa mentioned the clubs have been great. My daughter has loved dance club and art therapy and cooking and all kinds of things like that. So that's been just super, super helpful for us.
Great. Thanks, Melissa, for sharing your story with us. Last but not least, Michelle Williams is with us. She currently has a 6th grader at Academy of Whole Learning, and I'm hoping that she can also share some experiences that she's had.
Thank you, Paul. Welcome, everybody. Melissa, you took probably 3/4 of my happy dance parent story, because I think it's a universal experience. And I think for me, I will never forget my first parents' night, my first back to school night. And I'm going to try not to cry, but as the panel knows, I'm a crier. But I remember walking in and actually feeling like I'd found my people. as a parent. For the first time in my life, I had found my people. And when it was a bad day, or we'd had a long weekend of challenging behaviors, I would drop off and the look on my face would say it all. And I'd get an email, or I'd run into Melissa at something and she'd look at me and go, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." "No, you're not." "No." As a parent, and I'm a single parent as well, juggling that alone is a challenge. And even if you aren't a single parent, you very much feel as if you're alone. And so for me as a parent, that has been the single biggest gift of the Academy. It has been worth every penny. My parents, God love them, actually helped me with tuition because I couldn't do it on my own. And as my dad put it, when I said, "I can't keep asking you," he looked at me and said, "If she can't read and can't do math and can't do the things we know she needs to be able to do, there's no point. I'll take it out of your hide later." "Okay, Daddy." The sticker shock is a lot. But I don't have to take time off work to take her to OT and speech. I don't have to worry that if it's a challenging day, I'm going to get a call that I have to come pick her up, or that something terrible is going to happen. All of those things are the intangibles. We can't tell you that this amount of your tuition dollars will go to whatever, but I can tell you it does. And I can tell you this because when Morgan started, my daughter, at the Academy as a, oh my goodness, third grader, she was reading at a kindergarten level. If that, math skills were about there. She jumped 6 reading levels in her first year there. She is now a voracious reader. Thank God for graphic novels, because then we don't have to stop and say, "Hey, Mom, what does this word mean?" Which happens all the time when we're not doing graphic novels. More important for me, however, are the coping skills, the social skills, the life skills that Morgan has gotten. She is able to handle unexpected and unpleasant news without a meltdown, where before I couldn't have done that. There are things she is now able to do in terms of going to an adaptive performance at the Guthrie that I couldn't have done without the Academy. And those are rites of passage when you're a kid who grows up in the cities, and they're not closed to her anymore because she has those skills. I will never forget the month I was complaining, like I think every upper elementary parent complains about the plethora of birthday parties. We had 3 class birthday parties in 4 weeks. 3 in 4 weeks. And I stopped and I thought, how many years have you been waiting for her to have birthday parties to go to? Quit complaining, shut your mouth, go to Target, buy the present. That's the part that we can't put a price tag on. We can't articulate in anything except what we as parents will say. I think, and this comes as no surprise to people who've known my daughter, but for me, the world opened last year. And Greg is sitting there. Greg knows exactly where I'm going with this. Morgan decided that she wanted to ride competitively. She's an equestrian. Okay, fine, whatever. As we're all thinking, oh God, please no, please don't let it be bad, right? Because that's what you think when you're parenting one of our kids is, oh, please don't let this go horribly wrong. And I said to Greg, I said, well, she might qualify for something, and it might mean that we're out of school. And Greg went, keep me posted, let me know. And the next time I saw Greg, I said, we're going to the national competition for kids with developmental differences in Kansas City. And sorry, Greg, but we're going to be gone a week. And all Greg did was look at me, and true disclosure, I was an educator for 18 years, so I know what I was asking of the school. And Greg looked at me and said, okay, some things are more important. We'll figure something out. And so we went to nationals in a great big arena that holds as many people as the State Fair Coliseum, in an unfamiliar city, in a hotel, doing all the things that our kids shouldn't do according to what they tell us. And my kid knocked it out of the park. And she couldn't have done that without the skills and the strategies and the support and the belief in her, in what she as a human being is capable of. And that's the Academy's greatest gift to us as a family.
Thank you for sharing, Michelle. It's great. It's great to hear these stories from both of our parents. Thanks for everyone that shared today. I think for our participants, you probably could notice the belief, the passion from each of these speakers about the great things that are happening within our school. So again, thanks to our panelists for sharing. So I noticed there are a few questions in our queue. So I think what we'll do now is we'll just proceed through those. If there are additional questions that people want to ask, by all means, keep submitting them through that Q&A button at the bottom. But why don't we just get started on that? And I will, if I can't answer it, maybe I'll hand it off to someone else that I think could do a better job. So hope our panelists are ready. So the first question that comes in, maybe Greg, you can handle this one. It asks, what types of assessments are done to gauge where a student is academically?
Right. So first, in response to Michelle's story, it was just great when her daughter was in that competition, just to see the smile on her face and how serious she was taking it, and having the students, we were able to live stream it within the classroom. And just the community that was displayed at that moment was unbelievable. So I think that is another strong part about Academy of Whole Learning, is it is a community that really binds together, helps each other out, is there for one another, is a resource. Melissa has been a huge resource for us in the transition program, and has even informed us on what we can build on a transition program moving forward. So both of these parents have just been a part of it. They're huge stakeholders, as we all are, but we really rely on all the experts, the teachers, the parents, and who have been through it. So thank you both for sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. And it just goes to tell you how much effort and care and love is put on all these students within the school and the community that we have. All right, so as far as the assessments are concerned, if you're talking lower school, lower and middle school, I mentioned it earlier that we do heavy assessments, and what we do is we use Fontes and Pinnell, which is for reading literacy. And the assessment probably takes, it's individualized per student, so the teacher's sitting down reading stories and asking questions to try and determine where the kids are at in their ability to read. In addition to that, we also use Star 360, which is an online provider. Some students are able to do that on their own. In other situations, the teacher will read to the students in order to get a good gauge of where the students are at. So those are the two. There are other Common Core assessments depending on the teacher. If between those two that the teacher says, you know what, I really have a good idea, but there is just some gaps I think there might still be there. We use Common Core assessments that are provided within that framework. So that's for reading. And for math, what we use is the Star 360. There is a math component to that. Again, that is online. And it's similar to like what the NWEA is here for Minnesota, although it's not as long. We used to use NWEA, but from what we have been working with in the past, we really like STAR. And we looked at a lot of different assessments, and we like STAR because it's short and it gives a really good representation, a good snapshot of where the kids are for math. But in addition to that, for math, we also use key math for our students. And that is one-on-one with the teacher, again, where the teacher will ask the question and get the response from the student. And then based on their answer, they go to the next question until they just kind of slow down. And then once they have a good determination where the student has reached the limit, then they're able to find out within that key math program where the student needs to be. And then if to use a triangular approach for math, we also use the Sadlier program, which is what we use for our math. The teachers we went through, it was 2 years ago, we were looking at different math programs to use. Honestly, we looked at probably no more than 5 or 6 different ones, math programs to use. And the teachers had a huge spreadsheet of what they liked, what they didn't like on each of them. And one of the reasons why they liked Sadlier is because it was very comprehensive. It not only had a good assessment tool for them to use, but it had enrichment activities for those students who were doing very well, that they could give some enrichment ones. And those students who were struggling with certain concepts, they had follow-up ones to help build those skills where they felt that they needed them. So, so for math, it's STAR 360, it is key math, and also Sadlier. And if they wanted to, they can also use the Common Core. So we use a wide variety of assessments, both language arts and math, to really dial in right where those kids are at and not pigeonhole them to say, hey, you're in 8th grade and you're going to be learning 8th grade things. What we do here is we figure out, are you at a 6th grade level? We're going to teach you at 6th grade level to make sure that you get the right tools that you need. And then what we say to that is we go slow to go fast. We take our time assessing, so that way when it's time to hit the classroom, the students know right where they need to be, the parents or the teachers know right where they need to be, and just helps them just propel. And we see the progressive charts, or the progress charts for each student is unbelievable, the amount of progress that we see, as Michelle Williams attested to her daughter. So that takes care of it for the assessment. Paul, the next one.
Yeah, so we're gonna, maybe Greg, you might want to take a drink of water here. We got you on the clock here for the next couple of questions.
Sure. Diet Coke will work too, right?
Greg, can you talk a little bit about the IEP, what we do with IEPs, and how we use those to develop our own similar document to an IEP?
Yep. So we use IEPs only as a reference tool. We don't rely on IEPs. Part of it is because they use some of the goals that we just don't feel that are truly necessary for the kids and where they're at. Lisa talked about this idea of regulation before education, and some of the kids need different goals in order for them to achieve what we think is truly needed. So the traditional schools, they do a great job in trying to support, but what we do, rather than the IEPs, we have something called a WIP, which is a whole individual program plan. And those WIPs are based on assessment. I've already just spoke about all the assessments that we have and that we use in order to determine it. And by the way, and that's just the math and language arts. Lisa could talk a lot about some of the assessments that we use for social skills, and being able to do that, not only for the lower and middle, but also for high school. We use the Enderle-Severson, ESTR, talking about transition. So a combination between all those really helps us build an individual program plan based on their assessments and their instruction that informs us where the students are at, not only academically, but socially, and target those. So yes, we use IEPs and just to let us know right where the kids are at. But we have worked with Hopkins. If your student comes here, they would work with Hopkins because we're within the Hopkins School District. if you wanted to maintain the IEP, there is no problem. Actually, we just got done speaking with the person who is the representative for Hopkins School for us. They look at our whole individual program plan, and they're like, oh my gosh, for me to rewrite a WIP is a snap because of the comprehensive nature in which we write our individual program plans, our WIPs. So, and they really see all the effort that we put into each individual kid. So, yeah, we'll use an IEP occasionally just to inform us, but we really like to do our own thing with the individual program plan. And it's been proven as a success, so we're just going to continue to use that.
Great, thanks, Greg. We'll give you a little break here. Maybe Lisa can answer this next one. Lisa, can you talk a little bit about the speech therapy, OT, and PT, and how that's done through Capernaum?
Right. So we have a service within Capernaum, and so we have speech, physical therapy, and occupational therapy, and they're in. I guess, don't we like hire them in? Is that right? Is that right?
We contract through them.
Contract. That's the word I was looking for. Contract.
Yeah.
Yes. And so then they are there 2 days a week, and we'll see kids that need OT, speech, or PT.
Yeah. And just that is done during the course of the school day. You know, we try to pull kids out during non-heavy academic periods. You know, a lot of our families have that covered through insurance. You know, they do a great job. The nice thing about having them on site is there is great communication between those therapists and our teachers.
Yes.
And our BTs. So
yeah, that's really helpful that we can carry over. If there's a recommendation from the OT, then we can practice, the behavior therapists or the teachers can practice those skills in the classroom.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Greg, what about students receiving grades? How does that work? Do all students receive grades? Is there a report card? Are there students assessed based on Common Core standards, and how often? Can you address that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Our high school and our middle and high school students do receive grades. We work on a semester basis, so they would receive a report card twice a year, one in January, the other one at the end of the year coming up right now. The letter grades, just like you would see in a traditional school. The report cards, we use our student information system, which is called GradeLink. Our teachers enter in grades on a regular basis. They use Google Classroom when it talks about a learning management systems. So in this weird environment that we find ourselves currently in, I would say we've been ahead of the game. We have had, up here in Minnesota, we get snow, right? And cold weather. And the last few years, it's been a killer. Technology is something that's always been a passion of mine. So in helping the staff, we implemented e-learning days over the last couple of years, which allowed us to have a successful start. Yes, it was bumpy with whole COVID-19, but honestly, with our teachers already having a good start to what e-learning could look like, that allowed them to utilize Google Classroom and our GradeLink in order to kind of keep and maintain the grades. So yes, they get grades, they'll get a diploma, depending on what path they have. Like we have students in the high school who are on an academic path, and those students they can take honors courses here. They take the ACT. We've had students take AP exams, not actually on site at this point, but off site they can take AP exams. And so they'll get just a traditional transcript that you would anywhere else. Are they based on Common Core standards? I would say we are not, teachers teach to Common Core standards. We don't use standards-based grading. I would say our report cards that you would see reflect the standards. Our teachers teach the standards and they're graded based upon the standards, but we use the traditional grading system, and we use Common Core state standards For language arts and math and social studies, for high school, we would use the Minnesota State Standards. So yes, all the teachers are very familiar. They do their lesson planning surrounding the Common Core standards. So hopefully that answers your question. And you're always able to reach out to the staff and ask questions. I think that's another great nature of our smaller environment. The communication that we have in between the staff and the families are just about immediate. The teachers respond really well and fast back to the families. So,
great, thanks, Greg. I'm just going to skip over a couple here so that I can give you guys a little bit of a break. Someone had inquired about the start and end times of school. So our traditional school hours are around 8:15 till 3 o'clock each day, although there are before and after school options as well. So you can drop a student off as early as 7 a.m. For activities, and you can have a child stay as late as 5 p.m. So every day of the week we do offer clubs, or if your child is not interested in that particular club, there's opportunities for them to do some educational as well as recreational activities with some of our staff. So, but the typical hours for school are 8:15 to 3 p.m. Let's have the parents answer this next question. So it says, from both Michelle and Melissa, as parents, can you speak to the communication you've received from Academy of Whole Learning teachers and staff? And do you feel like it's a team effort? And can you share any maybe brief examples or stories as it pertains to that?
You want to go first, Melissa?
You want me to? Okay.
Or I can, doesn't matter.
As far as communication, yeah, the teachers are amazing. My daughter's actually had the same teacher for a couple of years in a row, just because of the way things worked out. And it's been so great that the staff works so hard to get to know the students so that they can help them not only learn academically, but also work on those things they need socially. My daughter has a real issue with advocating for herself and with language. And so they've been really working on some of those skills that aren't necessarily classroom academic skills, but something that's super important for her. So as far as communication with the teachers, I talk with them a lot about everything from things that are going on in the classroom to social things that might come up. They're in middle school. There's always some middle school issues that are just very normal that we need to talk about. The behavior therapist has been a real key, I feel like, and a huge addition to the classroom now. Having that resource, that person that is with the kids through all of their classes. As I understand it, they travel to each class, when they're in the middle school going to different classes. That behavior therapist stays with them. So that's kind of the key person that knows what's going on. And so if there's been something that's happened or, something good or bad, that's kind of the key person to talk to. And so you have that option all the time, as another communication source besides the teacher, which has been really huge.
I would agree. I think the thing that, and again, I'm not sure, because I've been on the teacher end of those conversations and that relationship as well as the parent. And I think the team approach is just so central to what we do that I always am horrified and heartbroken when I hear stories where it doesn't work that way anymore. Our executive director, Wayne Rasmussen, talks about how we are a team and that our parent input is so valuable because we know our children outside of school. We know what makes them tick in ways that their teachers perhaps won't. And Greg will vouch for this. Early in his tenure, we had to have a discussion about where my daughter was going to be placed, and I kept saying, "No, she's self-sabotaging. She's doing this." And okay, we'll see how it goes. And there was never any pushback. There was listening. There was communication. I'll even add, our teachers care so much about our kids outside of the classroom that my daughter's teacher this year came to a show on a Sunday morning on the opposite side of town from where they live, because that mattered. And you see that with our teachers all the time, our teachers and our staff all the time at extracurriculars that are not necessarily school related. And that's just the place, that's who we are. And it's such a gift because, see, I'm going to cry, because our kids, for the first time in their lives, often realize they matter. They matter to somebody besides their mom and dad, and they're important, and they're worthy of being lauded for who they are. And it's just the coolest thing in the world to see that team relationship.
Thank you both for sharing. I want to be cognizant of time. I know it is 2:56, and if any of our panelists need to drop off at 3 o'clock, completely understand. I'm going to stay on, and anyone else that wants to stay on, as well as our participants, to hear the remaining questions. I'm going to try and address all of them if possible on this call. And again, if you have additional ones, I'm happy that people are asking questions. It's great. So if you want to stay on, by all means you can. I'm going to try and address them. If you have to hang up, completely understand as well. So there were a few questions about the tuition. So let me just address those. One person asked, is Academy of Whole Learning a non-public school? Yeah, we are a private nonprofit school. Do any students receive full or partial tuition paid for by school districts? It's a very interesting question. I'll be honest in saying we have had a few over the years. I will say it's a very long road for those parents that have sought that out. Many of them have had to spend dollars to go through the legal system. And even with that, sometimes, the school district, you have to prove to them somehow that their public school cannot provide the services to your child. And that is very, very difficult. So I will say we've had a couple, but it's very rare for a school to do that. In terms of tuition, as was stated, we have our tuition is quite expensive. I do believe there's great value in that tuition. I would say about 25% of our families receive some form of tuition assistance, and that can vary. One of the questions was, do financial aid packages vary greatly year by year, or should you expect things to stay roughly the same? So how we handle financial aid is families apply through TADS. It's an online system that kind of qualifies you and basically asks you a lot of tax-related information. You submit that, it goes through the TAD system and then onto our finance team. Each year, we designate a certain amount of our budget to tuition assistance. We give kind of first precedence to those dollars to our returning students, and then what's ever remaining, we can divvy out to those families that do qualify. So that varies every single year, how many dollars that we do have, how much we can budget for. This year we're hoping to keep similar enrollment numbers, but if that's less, we may have to devote, some less dollars to tuition assistance. So, it could vary year to year. I think for us, we would love to be able to maintain a similar financial aid package to families as long as their financial situation does not change. Expenses continue to raise for us. We do devote a lot of people resources and other resources to our students. So costs sometimes change. We can't always guarantee that if a family received this, tuition assistance amount one year, that it's going to be exactly the same the next. And that's sometimes difficult because we know many of our families make huge sacrifices to send their children to our school. But again, we try to keep that consistent year to year, but we can't guarantee that. Let's see, moving on. Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about, I know you've touched a little bit on the curriculum. This particular participant wants to know about the curriculum used in the lower or elementary school.
Yeah, no problem. The curriculum that we use goes along with the assessments that we use because they work both hand in hand. So we use the Fontes and Pinnell system for our assessments, which is a key indicator that lets us know where they're at. And along with that is called the LLI system. It is a learning leveled intervention. And what that does, it's just a program that the teachers use in order to get those kids to the next level. And where that leads them to, I think it goes up through, let's say, eighth or sixth or eighth grade, probably sixth grade. And once they hit a level, meaning their fluency is really good, their comprehension is really good, so then they're able to be successful, let's say, in the upper middle school ages and even into the high school. So we use the LLI system, which is research-based, evidence-based system that works for us, and it has been proven super successful over the years that we have used it. So much so that even next year we're going to purchase. They have a new level for us to use, and it's a spendy system, but it's well worth the money just because of the success that we've seen. And I see Michelle nodding her head. She is a language arts person herself and could testify to the quality of language arts instruction that goes on with LLI. For math, what happens with math is the SADLER. I did mention a little bit about that. Our staff, our faculty looked at many different language arts component, or I should say math, resources and curricula that's out there. And SADLER by far was kind of the one that stood out, which actually has been proven great in this COVID time because there are some online components that we're going to start to use that they were on the front edge of in the future that we're able to jump on as a result of that. So that's been beneficial. So for language arts and math, it's LLI for language arts, SADLER for math. For science and social studies, we use teacher-created resources. It's all standards-based. Teachers are pretty creative on their own. They use teacher-paid teachers. So that's kind of what we use for those components as well.
Great, thanks, Greg. Just one that I can answer real quickly. Someone had asked, do you have a similar school calendar to traditional schools? Spring breaks, MEA, that. If anyone is interested, on our website, underneath school and admissions, if you click on the parents tab, halfway down the page, we show our school calendar. And we do follow a typical school schedule. Usually we'll start at the end of August, go through late May or early June. And we do have similar breaks. A lot of our parents ask us to align with their other children's breaks, and unfortunately we can't align with them all. We have families coming from all over the Twin Cities, so different kids are in different school districts, but we definitely get that out there early so parents can plan ahead of time. If you're interested in that calendar, again, it's on our website under school and admissions and parents.
Paige just shared. Good job, Paige.
All right, she's on the spot.
She's our office manager and does an amazing job. She's our Zoom guru. So I think she just shared with you the school calendar, I think from probably our website. I know there's a question on carpooling too.
Mm-hmm.
Paige and I have worked together at some points throughout the year. Melissa, were a part of a carpool, your family this year before we went into our distance learning. So that is a possibility. We have families from all around the metro area. As far east, I would think probably as Woodbury. At one point we had Wisconsin. So yes, what happens is as families come in, we look at, sometimes the parents do it on their own organically. Although this year we did reach out to specific families and said, hey, notice that you're driving in. I'm usually waving with another staff member in the morning saying hello to all the families, and we kind of know where people are at. Like, man, it would be a good connection if those families would, carpool together. So yes, it does happen, and we can help you navigate that for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. I know there are a couple questions out there too about COVID and our plans for that. So maybe Greg and I can kind of tag team on that one. In terms of COVID, obviously that has changed quite a bit for our school. And we know how important it is for our students to actually have them in school. getting that individualized instruction. So we do run a summer camp, and even though it's going to change a little bit in terms of the offerings or how we conduct those offerings, our hope, and I think our summer starts the second week of June, the summer programming. We're really hoping to offer some in-school options. And again, we have a lot of mitigation plans that we work on. You know, it seems like every other day we're meeting to talk about, you know, alternative plans and pivots if we have to. But we really obviously want to make certain that our students and staff safety is of the utmost importance, and we abide by everything, you know, that we can to make certain everyone is safe. But I think given our small class sizes, even small enrollment during the summer, that we're able to do some of that those in-school opportunities, you know, safely and successfully. So our hope is, again, to offer that in the summer, and then hopefully once the fall comes around, again, to give the option to parents. We will have, as of right now, our hope is to have an in-school option for students. Again, with classrooms between 7 and 9, we think that we can make it happen. And again, we're going to put in parameters to make things safe. But if there are going to be those families that will elect to continue to do distance learning, and we will accommodate those families as well. So as of right now, you know, our hope again is to offer some in-school options and then distance learning options for those families that prefer that.
Well, can I jump in just
certainly
and on that from a parent standpoint, and then I have to disappear, so I will say goodbye.
Yes.
It has been such a delight to watch the individualized presentations come home every day. My daughter's teacher, they come out at 8 in the morning, just like a regular school day. But for us, and it's been amazing watching it happen, the willingness and ability of the staff to get the various classes together for Google Hangouts over lunch, just like they would at school, or to have their morning meeting, and it follows the rhythm of the morning. That has done a lot, at least in my house. I'm not going to speak to everybody's. Melissa's nodding. To mitigate some of the isolation and the regression. I haven't seen it, and I'm going to be honest. I fully expected that it was not going to be pretty. And the only not pretty we've got is that it's the middle of May and everybody's about ready for summer. And I don't think there's a one of us who expected that to happen. So that's all credit to the staff, who I know were scrambling and really worked hard, long hours to make it smooth for the kids. And with that, I'm off to the barn.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Greg, was there any other thing that you wanted to add on that, or we can?
No, I think you hit it. The idea here, yes, is that we're going to be open for in-school in the fall. And we know that our kids need that. And our teachers realize that too. I'm in the school right now. I miss seeing them every day. I want to see them here. So the goal is to get them here in the fall. And then, yes, for those who are immune compromised and have needs, we definitely want to be able to support them as well. So we have a task force meeting weekly to talk about what are some of the things that we can do. Can we support our classrooms big enough to have enough distance in them to support classroom sizes of 8 to 9 students? And they are at this point. And so we are fully aware of all the CDC requirements, suggestions, guidelines. We have that team, a task force, kind of looking into it. So we want to make sure our staff and your students and our teachers are all safe. And communication was a big part of it. So as we continue to move forward, we will continue to communicate with our families, Paul with the potential families, on what our strategies are moving forward.
Great, thanks, Greg. One quick question just came in. Can payments, tuition payments be made over 12 months or just during the school year? Yeah, there are many options in terms of payments. We do have some families that pay up front. We have some families that pay twice a year. Some families pay over the course of 12 months. So yeah, absolutely. Anyone that's interested in those options can work with our finance director, Mike Onan. And there are options to be able to spread it out among 12 months. So we really try to work with families. Again, we understand it's a large financial commitment, and we will work with you on that. Okay, we only have one question remaining. Unless anyone else wants to chime in with questions, we'll just answer this last one and let everyone get on their way. This is an interesting question. So this question states, I heard in one video on your website that you'd like to move to a facility that is owned rather than leased. Can you provide an update regarding a timeline? And is Academy of Whole Learning hoping to stay near Minnetonka or looking at other locations across the Twin Cities? So yes, we are currently leasing our facility. I think there was a hope prior to COVID to really look into potentially a facility that we could own. And I think that's still a future consideration. This has put that on hold for now. I think once we get through this, by all means, we'll definitely continue that search. In terms of location, we have, again, families coming from all over the Twin Cities. But I think our goal is to probably stay within a 3 to 5 mile radius of where we currently are located. A large majority of our families do come from the western suburbs. But again, we have families from Minneapolis, as Greg mentioned, Woodbury. We did have a family last year from Wisconsin, so we understand families travel from a long way, and that's why, as we stated earlier, if there is an ability for families to carpool, sometimes that eases a little bit of the difficulty of getting your child to and from school. So that's really the only update I have now. Hopefully in the future, we're able to reveal plans for that, but right now, those are currently on hold.
Paul?
Yes.
I have Jacob here. Would you mind if he said hi?
I would love Jacob, and maybe Melissa. So Jacob is one of our graduates, and I know Melissa kind of shared a little bit about Jacob's journey and what he's doing now, but yeah, we'd love to hear from Jacob, just a brief hi or whatever he wants to share about his experience at Academy of Whole Learning. Hey, Jacob.
Hi, buddy. Good to see you, Jacob.
Good to see you.
So I was asking him what he thought has been most helpful about the school now that he's graduated. He graduated in 2018. And like I said, he's been at Hennepin Technical College for the last couple of years and working with the transition program. So Jacob, what do you think has been the most helpful thing from the school?
I would say from a student standpoint for me was learning how to ask for help when I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And not being afraid to, because that really helped me with the classes I'm in now. Because if you don't say anything, you're obviously not going to get any help. So it was kind of just as self-advocating, and I felt like that really helped me, and it's going to continue to help me.
And friends too.
Yeah.
Making friends.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, Jacob is like one of our dream students. I mean, not only did he graduate from Academy of Whole Learning, but he came back and he assists and volunteers, helping out coaching sports and just other things. And it's been great to have a graduate of our school that is such an advocate for our school. So thanks, Jacob. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we started an alumni program now, or the school kind of has, and he's been real involved with it. And so it's been really great to get those alumni together and other students. So it kind of goes on past, graduation. I mean, we're such a family at the school. So, we feel like he's still part of the family, even though he's graduated, and he feels like the staff are his family. So he loves to come back and say hi to everybody, and you miss him, right? And a lot of the students are still there that he went to school with that he really misses, and they still text and keep in touch and message, Snapchat or whatever they do.
And it's great for our participants. I know you got a great opportunity to hear from, Melissa and Michelle. And as Melissa stated, I think the small community that we have, some very strong parent advocates and great kids, it's a great community that helps our school be what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I felt very alone before I came to the school. I felt like parents didn't understand if they didn't have a child like mine. So all of a sudden, like Michelle shared, you come in and kind of everyone understands. So it's been a real gift to have that at the school. It's a huge bonus.
Great. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah.
Well, it looks as though we got through all of our questions that were answered here, but what my hope is, and again, I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank the participants who joined us today. Hopefully, again, this was beneficial. My hope after this, though, is to reach out via email to each of our individuals that did RSVP and attend the webinar, and I'll send an email out to you. By all means, I know that there may be additional questions in the future that you might have about our school, and I just ask that you can either follow up with me if you have questions at any point regarding our school via email, or you can reach out to me via phone. It'll be in that email that I sent to you. We want to be able to answer your questions. So if you have them, by all means, please reach out. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.